The world is complex. It has its superficial aspect, but it has very, very deep aspect also, where we hardly ever spend time. So we are only used to deal with the face value of the samsara. The most sought after commodity is the happiness. Everybody wants happiness. But there is a basic fault in this process that we don't understand. We think happiness comes from outside. And it's a wrong approach, because whatever we are looking for is tough to find. And if we do find, it's never enough. And the race goes on. If I do a gesture of help to someone, one who needs the most is the one who's going to appreciate the most. The same gesture, if I offer to someone who already had done such a gesture for me, for him it is just paying back time because he did it for me. And the same gesture, if I do it to someone who does not need it at all, I will be a burden. So, same gesture makes somebody very appreciative versus someone takes it for granted versus someone literally hates it. Why? Same gesture should bring the same happiness to all three entities, but it doesn't. Despite my best intentions, of course. So, the happiness that results in the first person versus the second and the third person is determined by his state of mind. He was in the state of not expecting at all, and all of a sudden he gets it, making him very happy. The second person, even though he didn't expect, his mind was conditioned by what he had done for me. So getting something was already built into it. So it was not unexpected. So for him, since there was some platform built up already about what I have done for him, there is no ecstatic joy. And the third person is totally busy in his own world, like a teenager. And any gesture of help makes them irritable because that disturbs their world. So out of the three, the first person became the most happiest of all, if you analyze it deeply, because he did not expect it. when something that is not expected and it happens, that in combination with the outside world event, that combination makes you happy. So happiness really does not come from outside. Your inner state of your mind, more empty it is, more unexpected it is, that's where the happiness results. So happiness is not something that can be given, but it can be received if we know how to fix our state of mind. Most of the times, the happiness is desired. Even before you go for a special dinner, you already have thought about it. You already know what you're going to be expecting. And when you eat that gourmet dinner, you have a temporary happiness. But as soon as it's over, you're empty again. And your desires continue to exist, looking for more and more ways to become happy. So inside, we are always in a state of incompleteness. And since that incompleteness has already thought of the objects that will make them happy, it doesn't last long. The incompleteness continues. And whatever objects come to give a temporary completeness, cease to exist, giving the happiness. Because by default, material things, happiness remains limited. Just like all the material objects have a fixed lifespan, all the happiness is created from the material angle also is limited. It does not last long. That's not a true spiritual happiness. True spiritual happiness happens in the first case, where it was not expected, it was needed, but never expected, and all of a sudden the union happens, and the happiness has a long-lasting effect because it happened at the spiritual level, not at the material level. Because there were no expectations. The person who is not expecting, his state of mind had not geared towards that object or situation. So the mind was not involved in this case. So the happiness that comes hits straight to the spiritual center, and it has a long-lasting effect. So true happiness is not something that can be given. It all depends upon your state of existence or your state of mind that decides whether you'll be happy or not. So we have a fundamental flaw in the way the sansar operates. Everybody thinks that happiness is going to come from outside. And in that process, the inner state of incompleteness becomes a perpetual state of mind for most of the people in sansar. Everybody is in the state of looking for something. And invariably, everybody looks for finite objects which can be shared, which has to be shared. with everyone else, there is only fixed number of dollar bills printed, and if everybody wants it, there's always going to be competition and suffering. In competition, somebody wins, somebody loses. But so the key thing is not to expect happiness from outside, but to fix your inner state of mind, which is desiring things. And when the things come, desires still continue. They get satisfied only temporary. So if you put a mathematical value to the mind, which is full of desires for happiness, if you give a quantitative value, if you have 0 desires, you are in a shunya state. If you have 5 degree of desires, and then the life gives you 7 degree of happiness, you will be happy. Of course, it won't last long. Versus somebody who has 100 degree of desires, but get only 7 degree of happiness. For him, that has no value. Just like those teenagers who never wanted any of those things and did not care for it because his desires had directed somewhere else. Just like the second person who already had expected some things in return for what he had done. In that case, it will be equal. He had desires of 5 degree and he gets 5 degree of happiness from outside. It becomes even and does not generate the reaction of happiness. So, if you are at a 0 degree, meaning no desires, then whatever you get becomes happiness. Even if you get 1 degree of happiness from outside, you remain in an appreciative mode. You remain in a gratitude towards life. So the whole key of happiness is to achieve the shunyata within you, reach to the soul, which is living by itself without any desires from the material world. And yet, the dynamics of life will bring things in your life. But through the meditation, if you empty out your mind, your flimsy desires, you walk away from the mind and you find the shunya state in which you are down to 0. And if you can live in that shunya state all the time, even the simplest things can make you happy. Rising sun, gentle wind on the face, a little hug. All these things will make you happy because you're not expecting anything out of life. You are living without expectations. So every single breath you're taking, you become appreciative of it. Every time you look at the colors of the sky, you become appreciative because you came from the world of shunyata, where there is nothing. So the key thing is to learn how to empty out your mind. Being in the shunya state is a state of happiness by itself because your mind is at rest. Since there are no desires, there is no job of the mind required to think of the ways to get happiness. If I desire something, then the mind has to become active to find out the ways to fulfill my desires. But if I get rid of the desires by reaching to the shunya state and realizing that you are that shunyata in the samadhi state, then with a little practice, you can live in this shunya state all the time. Somebody's smile, somebody's hug, somebody's appreciation fills you with happiness. Simple things will make you happy. Flowers dancing in the wind. Every little thing can make you happy. So that is the key of happiness. Understand the dynamics of the samsara. Happiness, unfortunately, has become a commodity. Everybody is trying to be happy, and everybody is trying to make other people happy. Happiness is not that simple. For the real happiness to happen, you have to change your mind. You have to change your inner psyche. You have to transform yourself from within. And you have to become humble. You have to go down to the zero level. That's where the secret of happiness lies.